one of the things that someone let me know last night, and Todd, I apologize because I don't remember who you are in game because I know you have one username on Twitch and YouTube and another username in Discord, and another username in game, and I forget who's who sometimes. But I had mentioned the other day that I like using controllers, and I lamented that World of Warcraft didn't have controller support, and I thought you had to have a mod to do controller support, and that is not the case. There is controller support for the game. I think it was added, from what I understand, I was reading up on it last night. From what I understand, it was added, I think, in Dragonflight or just before Dragonflight. I don't know exactly the history on it. It was like 11 o'clock last night when I was doing this after I wrapped up my Wasteland 3 stream. And you can enable controller support, and it does. There are some. It's kind of like it's not as inherent as say Final Fantasy 14, which I've played on the PC with controller, or excuse me, I've played it on the PS4 with controller, um, and it's not as like groovy looking as like Baldur's Gate 3, which switches UI. It keeps the same UI, but you'll notice like if I go down here and hit escape, um, I'm down, just I can move my mouse around. This is me moving the mouse around, and I can do all the things I would normally do with the mouse. But you also notice that I have, if you look at the UI on the hotkeys, I have like RT, LT, LBY, so on and so forth. So I have controller support set up this morning. Dude, this is a game changer for me because I love playing with controllers. I'm not a big fan of doing mouse and keyboard. Now, um, it's not perfect because there is a lot of manual setup required, and I don't have things completely turned, done yet. And I don't think I would ever use this in a raid scenario, but for my general single player gameplay, which is probably going to be 85% of what I do when I'm streaming World of Warcraft for now, because I'm leveling through Dragonflight. Um, and I'm not a tank. I'm just a ranger. I'm just a hunter. I'm just here to pew pew, point me at a target, and I'll shoot. Um, I don't think that I will use mouse and keyboard except for unique scenarios in dungeons when there's specific mechanics that need to be done, or raids when I really need to be focused on, specific controls. Because one of the things obviously you can do is you could set up, I think, up to 16. I forget how many you can do. There's a lot of controls that you can map to the a lot of abilities you can map to the controller. I'm not doing that because I only use perhaps, there's 10 abilities that I use the most. So really what I've just mapped is the rotation abilities that I use for the most part, along with my self heal, my pet heal, and flying. And I'll tell you one thing that feels better on the controller than the mouse and keyboard for sure is Dragonflight. Holy crap, is this amazing when you're on a controller? Because now it's like, boom, let's go ahead and just. I mean, it's just so much better on a controller. And, there are some things you still need to do mouse and keyboard for, like, panning out the camera like that. I use the mouse wheel. Um, this just feels so. Ooh, there's a glyph. Well, I know what we're doing first thing in the morning. Ha 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 ha. So I gotta say, guys, like, setting up the controller last night was pretty awesome. It's not perfect, but it's a great step in the right direction. Now, the finicky part is like if I come down here and I want to do combat, this is where things get a little, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So, here's my traditional stuff. Do my rotation here. All right, so I killed a mob, right? Let's do another one just for. I'll show you what I mean by this. So, that's down. Now I've mapped the interact key in here so I can come in here and do this. Now you notice the mouse icon just popped up on the screen when I did that. So then you can move the mouse. That's when it's a little finicky because right after you skin a mob, um, it kind of wants to act like it's back in mouse and keyboard mode because you force it to do an interaction. But that's my rotation right there. It's like 5 abilities. We'll do another one real quick so you can see. Oh, there's a quest down there. Oh, that's a quest I need to turn in. So here. It's that. It's RT, which is my macro setup. I probably need to do a different mob that's not so low health. But RT is my macro, which sends my pets in and applies Hunter's Mark. So that's what I start every combat scenario off with. I'm going to do a pet heal real quick, which is this one. This is great. So if I were to do this, I would do RT, then LT is my Serpent's Sting, and then I just go into this, and finally this. And the mob's dead. It's like 5-6 abilities, and you're good to go. Now, one of the areas where it doesn't necessarily work 100%, actually, I don't need to mount. Let's come down here and talk to this NPC, because this is one of the areas where I've noticed that the controller isn't quite perfect. And this is one of the areas where I'll have to, go back to the mouse. So we're talking to this character right here. What would your Vari do if you were trying to stop this? So I can start the interaction, right? But then if I wanted to, I can use this to move the mouse around. However, I can't, when I get it over here, there's no, so I just hit the X button to interact, and instead of doing that, what it did, because I have smart targeting enabled, is it sent my pets out to attack, because it's interacting with the nearest object that's in my sights. So I need to then switch over to mouse and keyboard, so I'm no longer using controller, to complete the quest, and to take the next quest in this series. So again, it's not perfect. I do need to probably heal. Goodbye. Like so. So it's not perfect, but I gotta say, just from the purposes for the way I like to play and saving my hands and everything else, and also just setting up the Dragonflight and everything, this feels absolutely freaking amazing. Now, because I don't want to try to map, 50 different abilities to my hotbar, like I'm never gonna use this for things like summoning new pets. Or things of that nature. Like if my pet were to fall in combat, I would need to switch out. But thankfully, the switching is fairly seamless. I'll do it here in a second. Okay. So all I gotta do if I want to switch out is, for example, just move the mouse, and suddenly I'm back in mouse and keyboard. Like I'm not using this anymore. Like, all you gotta do is move the mouse, and it's seamless. So there's no, like, with Baldur's Gate 3 as an example, it would pause for a second, and then switch the whole UI over. That doesn't count here. It just does this from the get-go. Now, you can, and I'll do a separate video on this later. I'm gonna do a video on how to set all this up, because there was a lot of me trial and erroring things last night to get it to work. And now that I've got it working, it's awesome. But I think I noticed in one of the tutorials I was reading last night is someone went in here to the edit mode, and they actually resized all of their hotbar windows to look like the layout of like a traditional controller-based game. So they went in here and they basically made this into a different type of, like a square. They did like a square bar, and they only kept like 4 icons on it or something, whatever. And they did all these weird things, which, I'm not going to do, because I like my layout the way it is. Because I like the seamless switching between mouse and keyboard, because it means that I can do, the 85 to 90% of the game that I'm going to do with the controller, run around, explore, kill mobs, single player stuff. And then as soon as I get into a dungeon, I can put the controller down, and I can immediately go back to mouse and keyboard. And now, now I'm mouse and keyboard mode here, and go from there. So I just gotta say that, like, from a oops, I targeted the wrong guy. for my needs and what I'm doing, smart targeting is a little finicky here, so that, that. It's awesome. Oh, it's awesome. I'm absolutely enthralled with this. Now this, I haven't done one of these before. I would be willing to bet I need to use the mouse to pick that up. Oh no, interacting with objects actually retrieved that as well, so that actually worked. So I'm very pleased with the controller support in World of Warcraft, and I didn't know it existed. So yeah, I'll be playing with the controller for probably 85% of my gameplay moving forward. Um, Except, like I said, there's going to be situational aspects where if I'm in a dungeon or a raid and we're doing specific mechanics, or I really need to be careful about my targeting, then I'll probably end up using the mouse and keyboard. Because I can imagine the way I have focus target set up to assist the tank, that I probably still need to do with mouse and keyboard because I haven't dug into how to set up an immediate assist. I would probably need to set up an assist key at that point, like an assist macro. If I did it that way, going like old school and setting up an assist macro, I can imagine that working really well on the controller because then I would just do the macro first thing, then apply my hunter's mark and everything else and do that, and I think it'll work. So, food for thought. Controller support in World of Warcraft rocks. I'm very happy with it, especially the Dragonflight. It's so cool. And I'll get a guide out about setting up the controller soon, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, we're going to continue the stream, but I wanted to get that off my chest right away. So thanks to Todd for sending me the deets on that, how to get it set up, because I thought I had to use a mod. Turns out you don't. It is inherently built in now. There is a chat command you got to run, but I'll put that in the guide so we can watch that later. So like, subscribe, hit the bell icon.